Scaling a SOC 2 program successfully depends on understanding that one size does not fit all. Startups and enterprises operate under vastly different conditions, yet both must prove that their controls are effective, documented, and auditable. The art of right-sizing lies in tailoring the compliance framework to fit organizational maturity, capacity, and risk exposure. For a startup, agility and efficiency are paramount, while an enterprise demands rigor, coordination, and consistency across teams. Both, however, must ensure proportionality, designing controls that are sufficient to protect data and demonstrate trustworthiness without becoming bureaucratic or redundant. The goal is sustainable audit readiness built into business operations, not an over-engineered compliance burden.
Startups face unique realities that shape how their SOC2 programs should evolve. Lean teams and rapid development cycles leave little room for heavy documentation or complex approval workflows. They often depend heavily on SaaS platforms and managed cloud providers for core infrastructure, which inherently transfers some control responsibilities. Process maturity may still be developing, but startups have a powerful advantage. In automation, cloud-native APIs, continuous integration pipelines, and dynamic monitoring can generate evidence automatically. For these organizations, SOC 2 readiness begins with prioritizing controls based on risk. Focus first on access control, change management, and data protection. Simplicity and focus yield stronger results than attempting to implement enterprise-grade frameworks prematurely.
Enterprises, by contrast, operate in a different ecosystem, with complex hierarchies, distributed teams, and multiple regulatory frameworks, such as ISO 27001, HIPAA, or PCI DSS. Governance becomes layered and interdependent. Policies must harmonize across regions and business units, and evidence must be consistent across overlapping audits. Large organizations rely on structured assurance functions, from internal audit to enterprise risk management, to maintain compliance coherence. The challenge isn't building controls from scratch, but ensuring alignment, ownership, and standardization across departments. In an enterprise environment, success is measured by consistency, scalability, and the ability to integrate SOC 2 seamlessly with existing frameworks.
The right-sizing philosophy begins with balance. Controls must be rigorous enough to mitigate risk, but not so rigid that they stifle business operations. Applying risk and materiality principles ensures effort is spent where it matters most. Automating repetitive evidence tasks early prevents manual overload as the organization grows. Framework duplication should be avoided. Each control should serve multiple purposes across compliance regimes whenever possible. For startups, that means building once and reusing evidence. For enterprises, it means harmonizing libraries and aligning audits. Right-sizing keeps compliance proportional to the organization's maturity and ensures that resources are allocated intelligently. Defining scope correctly is one of the most strategic decisions for small organizations. Startups should focus their initial SOC 2 audit on the core product or customer-facing service that generates or processes sensitive data. Back-office systems, like HR or marketing tools, can remain out of scope unless they handle customer information directly. This pragmatic approach limits complexity and cost while establishing a foundation for later expansion. Boundaries should always align with customer trust requirements, not convenience alone. As the organization scales, scope can expand in phases, maintaining readiness momentum without overextending limited capacity. Documentation discipline is key to scaling efficiently. Startups benefit from lightweight, measurable policies written in plain language. Using templates from open frameworks or trusted sources accelerates adoption while ensuring completeness. Version control platforms like Git or Notion can store all documentation, giving teams clear visibility into policy evolution. Immediate updates after major organizational or technical changes ensure that documents stay accurate and auditable. Conciseness and clarity matter more than length. Auditors value relevance and evidence of operation over formalism.
Automation is a startup's greatest advantage in achieving compliance efficiently. Leveraging cloud-native monitoring, logging, and alerting tools can replace entire manual workflows. API integrations with compliance platforms can automatically collect evidence, populate control dashboards, and generate audit-ready reports. Early investment in infrastructure as code and continuous compliance monitoring, CCM, pays exponential dividends, scaling as the business grows without requiring additional headcount. In a startup context, automation is not a luxury, it is the only sustainable path to continuous assurance. Change management illustrates the practical difference between startup and enterprise operations. Startups typically manage change through lightweight ticketing workflows and peer reviews embedded in development pipelines. Enterprises, however, require formal change advisory boards, CABs, risk assessments, and rollback documentation. Despite these differences, both must demonstrate traceability. Every change should have approval, validation, and rollback proof. Exceptions should be documented proportionally. Startups can justify risk-based trade-offs in small teams, while enterprises must follow formal deviation processes. In both cases, clarity and evidence, not bureaucracy, define control effectiveness. Access and identity governance scale differently but share the same principles. Startups can manage IAM through centralized providers like Okta or Azure AD, enforcing least privilege and MFA with minimal complexity. Enterprises face multi-directory environments, legacy systems, and thousands of accounts across hybrid infrastructures. Harmonizing joiner, mover, leaver processes and synchronizing privilege audits across domains become essential. Regardless of scale, enforcing MFA universally and logging all access events provide tangible SOC2 evidence. For startups, automation ensures speed. For enterprises, federation ensures consistency. Incident management maturity reflects organizational complexity but pursues the same goal: timely containment and transparent reporting. In startups, incidents are often managed through shared on-call rotations, Slack notifications, and rapid RCA documentation. Enterprises deploy formalized incident response plans, war rooms, and post-mortem review boards. Both models must maintain RCA documentation, define severity levels, and metrics such as time to detect and time to recover. Transparency with affected stakeholders and continuous improvement cycles close the loop. Whether informal or structured, incident response must demonstrate readiness and accountability, two qualities central to SOC 2 compliance. For more cyber-related content and books, please check out cyberauthor.me. Also, there are other prepcasts on cybersecurity and more at baremetalcyber.com. Cost optimization is a recurring theme in every SOC 2 journey, but it manifests differently depending on organizational size. Startups must be especially strategic, budgeting for audit readiness according to risk priority rather than attempting to address every control at once. Investing early in automation tools that serve multiple purposes, such as continuous compliance platforms or integrated ticketing systems, reduces recurring consulting costs later. Evidence reuse across frameworks like ISO or GDPR also improves ROI. Enterprises with larger budgets and higher stakes should focus on rationalizing tools and minimizing redundancy across compliance systems. Managed compliance partners can provide expertise at both ends of the spectrum, but their use should be selective and outcome-driven. Every expenditure should tie back to measurable gains in readiness, efficiency, or audit outcomes. Talent and role design follow a similar scaling logic. Startups rely on security generalists who cover everything from governance and risk to engineering and incident response. This agility supports innovation, but can create dependencies on a few key individuals. Cross-training team members prevents knowledge silos and single points of failure, while clearly documented responsibilities maintain accountability even in lean teams. Enterprises, on the other hand, depend on specialized departments: governance, compliance, IT operations, privacy, and risk management, each managing a defined slice of the control framework. Coordination becomes the challenge, not coverage. Formal ROSI matrices clarify ownership boundaries, ensuring that every SOC 2 control has a designated accountable party and eliminating overlap or gaps. Metrics and dashboards bring visibility and discipline to SOC 2 operations, regardless of scale. Startups can track simple yet meaningful indicators, such as overall readiness percentage, number of automated controls, and average evidence submission time. These metrics show progress and help leadership gauge audit preparedness. Enterprises need more complex dashboards encompassing exception closure rates, control coverage across business units, and trend analyses of recurring audit findings. Both types of organizations benefit from quarterly maturity reviews that assess control operation, automation performance, and risk reduction. Transparent reporting not only improves internal accountability, but also builds credibility with auditors, customers, and investors. Audit preparation is another area where scale shapes approach. Startups often engage readiness partners or external consultants to perform pre-audit assessments, helping identify documentation or evidence gaps before formal fieldwork begins. Their goal is to minimize surprises and reduce rework during the actual audit window. Enterprises typically conduct internal audits or self-assessments well in advance, using established internal audit teams or compliance functions. Both must maintain disciplined evidence repositories, organizing artifacts by control and period to ensure auditors can retrieve samples quickly. Scheduling fieldwork during low operational activity, such as non-peak product cycles, reduces disruption and helps maintain productivity. The principle remains the same. Preparation equals predictability. Documentation governance grows more complex as organizations expand. In enterprises, formal policy councils, approval workflows, and compliance boards ensure version control and oversight, often through automated policy management tools. Startups can manage this more directly, with founders or department leads approving and updating policies as needed. Regardless of size, automated versioning through repositories like Git or SharePoint ensures every policy change is traceable and reversible. Accessibility is equally important. Employees must be able to find and follow current policies easily. Whether formalized or lightweight, documentation governance ensures that policies reflect real-world operations, an expectation auditors verify closely. Culture underpins the success of any SOC 2 program. Startups thrive on flexibility and innovation, where security culture must integrate seamlessly into rapid development. Embedding security champions in engineering teams and promoting security as everyone's job creates grassroots engagement. Enterprises, in contrast, emphasize stability and accountability, requiring structured communication, formal training, and consistent messaging from leadership. Yet both share the same goal, fostering a culture of trust and responsibility. When employees understand that compliance supports customer confidence rather than bureaucracy, adherence becomes a shared mission. SOC 2 works best when culture amplifies controls instead of resisting them. Maturity progression defines the journey from early readiness to continuous assurance. In the early startup phase, controls may be ad hoc, with evidence compiled reactively. As the company grows, automation and defined workflows replace manual effort, while regular audits reinforce discipline. At the enterprise stage, continuous monitoring, predictive risk analytics, and integrated frameworks like ISO 27001 and NIST become the norm. Each phase should optimize governance and cost without overcomplicating operations. The ultimate goal is sustainable maturity, where SOC 2 readiness becomes part of daily business rhythm rather than a once-a-year project. Awareness of common pitfalls helps organizations avoid costly missteps. Startups often over-engineer controls prematurely, adopting enterprise-level documentation or tooling far beyond their operational need. Enterprises, conversely, underestimate the coordination overhead of maintaining control consistency across departments, leading to misaligned policies or duplicated efforts. Both sometimes neglect to update documentation or evidence repositories after process changes, creating audit gaps. These issues are best addressed through proportional planning, quarterly governance reviews, and continuous improvement cycles. Regular recalibration ensures the SOC 2 program stays efficient, scalable, and aligned with real risk. Auditors expect specific forms of evidence that illustrate readiness and governance. For startups, a readiness matrix showing implemented controls and defined scope demonstrates strategic focus. Enterprises provide version-tracked policy libraries, cross-departmental control mappings, and continuous compliance monitoring (CCM) dashboard screenshots. Both must present metrics showing exception closure rates, audit readiness percentages, or control maturity progress. These artifacts prove that SOC 2 is not a static certification effort, but an evolving system of accountability and improvement. Cross-framework integration amplifies efficiency as programs mature. Applying SOC 2 as the foundational control framework allows organizations to extend into ISO 27001, HITRUST, or industry-specific attestations with minimal duplication. Controls like encryption, access management, and incident response are universally applicable, so evidence can be reused across multiple audits and customer requests. Enterprises often build unified assurance reports that satisfy multiple frameworks simultaneously, while startups can position SOC 2 as their first step toward a scalable compliance ecosystem. Consistency across frameworks minimizes friction, both internally and externally. Governance linkage ensures that compliance remains visible at the executive level. Regardless of size, a designated SOC 2 sponsor, CSO, CTO, or VP of Operations must oversee the program and report quarterly to leadership. Regular risk reviews tied to SOC 2 key performance indicators, KPIs, keep the program aligned with business objectives. Integrating SOC 2 metrics into leadership dashboards ensures ongoing visibility and accountability. During leadership transitions or growth phases, program continuity is maintained through documented governance structures and automated evidence workflows. This linkage between operational controls and strategic oversight anchors SOC 2 in the organization's overall risk management framework. In summary, right-sizing SOC 2 means tailoring the depth, speed, and formality of controls to the organization's size and maturity without compromising integrity. Startups should harness automation and risk prioritization to maintain agility, while enterprises must focus on harmonization, governance, and coordination across scale. Both should emphasize evidence reuse, proportional cost management, and clear accountability. SOC 2 success is not about doing more, it's about doing what's appropriate, effective, and sustainable. As organizations evolve, their SOC 2 programs must evolve too, ensuring that compliance grows naturally alongside the business. In the next episode, we'll explore how this maturity journey continues through evidence immutability, retention, and long-term assurance.